As supervisor of the Kern County Sheriff's Internal Affairs Division, Lieutenant David Wesley Hubard regularly presided over investigations into his colleagues' suspected misconduct.
However, the victim was located inside of the residence.
Now, Hubard himself is the subject of an investigation based on an alleged, multifaceted breach of duty. After Sheriff Donnie Youngblood fired him with a blistering 7-page litany of alleged dishonesty and abuse of power, he was immediately hired by District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer as a DA investigator. Now, the state's Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, known as POST, holds Hubbard's future in the balance.
We don't want to take any chances.
If POST rules that he abused his position to conceal an affair with a subordinate and potentially harm the defense of a fellow KCSO employee whose sexual encounter with that same woman subordinate was also under scrutiny, Hubbard's case would go before an administrative law judge.
They located a vehicle on the street.
And ultimately, he could permanently lose his right to wear a badge anywhere in California. The case of David Hubard, a rising star in the Sheriff's Department who claimed to have been the youngest person ever promoted to sergeant and later to lieutenant, moves forward at a post-commission hearing Wednesday in Sacramento. The hearing follows a month-long investigation by 17 News into off-duty and occasionally on-duty indiscretions that have caused strife within the Kern County Sheriff's Office.
I'm pretty confident in that.
Hubbard's trouble started with sex. Post investigator Kevin Sherburne laid it all out for the Post advisory panel.
The summary of this case is that the division found clear and convincing evidence that Mr. Hubbard abused his power and was dishonest.
On a late November weekend in 2021, Lieutenant Hubard and a civilian sheriff's employee who reported directly to Hubbard had what both parties describe as consensual sex in his office while he was on watch commander duty, acting, as Post investigators characterized it, as the highest-ranking law enforcement official in Kern County. Hubard, who months later gave an audio-only interview to a Post investigator, said he was trying to do his job as best he could, given the intimate distraction of the moment.
I had my radio on. I had my phones on. I was available as needed. I feel like I was able to respond to any situation.
For Hubard, who is married, sex at the workplace with a lower-ranking employee who was engaged to another sheriff's deputy was serious enough. But the woman also was involved in an apparently unrelated incident involving, again, sex. She reported that a second man, a detective sergeant in the same unit as Hubard, sexually assaulted her. Internal Affairs embarked on a review of that case as well. Hubard and the woman became concerned about what this detective sergeant might say about the other sexual liaisons in the Sheriff's Department, specifically Hubbard's office affair with the woman. Their worst fears were confirmed. Not only did the accused detective tell investigators about Hubbard's affair with his subordinate, he accused her of being, quote, crazy and, quote, coming on to him. Suddenly, Hubard was under investigation himself. Internal Affairs would be interviewing him and re-interviewing his subordinate. Hubard went into a panic. He is alleged to have deleted evidence, text messages from his work-issued mobile phone, and telephone logs. He's alleged to have interfered with the investigation of the sergeant and improperly shared confidential information with the woman he had sex with, according to the Post findings.
And being able to handle these items, they are extremely dangerous.
Hubbard's attorney, addressing the Post Advisory Board, argued Hubard was remorseful and had been forthcoming during the investigation. She said Hubard had been a close friend of Deputy Philip Campus and was part of the SWAT team in Wasco that day in July 2021 when Campus was shot and killed, rescuing a family. That trauma, just 4 months before the events that led to his termination, led to out-of-character behavior, Hubbard's attorney suggested.
The actions that bring David Hubard before you are isolated, personal in nature, and span the course of a short period in 2021, in contrast to an admirable career of over 16 years.
Neither Hubard nor his attorney Castillo responded to multiple requests for comment. Sheriff Youngblood, in his termination letter, did not accept Castillo's argument. Having sex with your subordinate while on duty as the top-ranking position that day is inexcusable and is a prime example of what someone with no regard for the people he's entrusted to protect, civilians and staff, would do. Youngblood said Hubard used the trust of fellow detectives to improperly gain information about the investigation into the sergeant and then pass it on to the sergeant's accuser, with whom Hubard was having a sexual affair.
So currently working on it.
To allow you to continue with your employment would condone the behavior you exhibited. It is obvious you lack the required integrity to continue in any capacity with the sheriff's office. District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer apparently did not agree with the sheriff. Even before his termination at the sheriff's office was official, Zimmer hired Hubard as a senior DA investigator,
Medical aid was called to the scene.
and he's still working there, even after Post took away all his police powers pending that June 12th hearing.
A member of the parent-teacher organization at the coming.
The DA's office, through Assistant District Attorney Joseph A. Kinzel, declined comment, citing a pending employee matter. 17 News had a list of questions for DA Zimmer, including, why was Hubard hired after being terminated at the sheriff's office? With his police officer authority suspended, what duties has he performed at the DA's office? Did anyone at the sheriff's office support his hiring at the DA's office? Did anyone at the sheriff's office oppose his hiring at the DA's office? Hubard worked for KCSO from April 2007 to August 2022 and would mark 20 years with the county in 2026. The Office of Sheriff Donnie Youngblood declined to comment, saying Hubard is no longer an employee for KCSO.
Extremely minimal amount of force just to try to overcome the resistance.
Robert Price, 17 News.